The Vaxaran Empire had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. Their ships darkened the skies of 100 worlds. Their soldiers marched across continents that had never known their boot before. Species that once dreamed of touching the stars now dreamed only of surviving another day under Imperial rule. Commander Thyrol stood at the observation window of Station Kethril 7, watching the endless parade of ships passing through his checkpoint. Freighters carrying tribute to the throne world. Prison transports moving slaves from one system to another. Military vessels on patrol, their weapons always ready, their crews always watching. This was the edge of the Empire. Beyond this station lay unexplored space, empty systems, dead worlds that held no value. Thyrol had commanded this outpost for 15 years. Nothing ever happened here. Ships came through, showed their permits, and moved on. The most exciting event in recent memory had been a smuggler trying to hide illegal spices in his cargo hold. Thyrol was old for a Vaxaran officer. His scales had faded from bright purple to a dull gray. His eyes, once sharp and hungry, now carried the weight of too many years spent watching nothing happen. He had requested transfer to a more active posting many times. Each request was denied. The Empire valued stability, and Thyrol was nothing if not stable. The sensor technician made a sound. It was small, barely more than a grunt, but Thyrol had worked with Karev for a decade. He knew that sound meant something unusual. What is it? Thyrol asked, walking toward the sensor station. Karev's 4 hands moved across the controls. His eyes, all 6 of them, were fixed on the display. I am not certain, Commander. There is an anomaly in Sector 7. What kind of anomaly? Gravitational disturbance. Space is folding in ways I have never seen before. Karev adjusted his instruments. It does not match any known drive signature. Not Imperial. Not from any of the conquered species. It is something else entirely. Thyrol felt something he had not felt in years. A cold sensation running down his spine. Vaxarans did not believe in intuition. They believed in data, evidence, facts. But right now, looking at those strange readings, Thyrol felt that something was very wrong. Increase sensor resolution, he ordered. I want to see what is causing this. Karev obeyed. The display shifted, focused, enhanced. For a moment, there was nothing but empty space. Stars burning in the distance, the void stretching out forever. Then there was something dot. It did not arrive the way ships normally arrived. There was no flash of hyperspace exit. No gradual deceleration from faster-than-light travel. One moment the space was empty. The next moment, a ship was there. It simply existed where before there had been nothing. The bridge fell silent. Every officer stopped what they were doing. Every eye turned to the main display. The vessel was enormous. Thyrol had seen Imperial dreadnoughts that could crack planets. This ship was larger. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The design was angular, aggressive, covered in shapes that might have been weapons or sensors or something else entirely. There were no markings, no identification codes, nothing that indicated where it had come from or who had built it. Scan it, Thyrol whispered. Karev's hands trembled as he worked the controls. The results appeared on the display, and Thyrol felt his blood run cold. The power readings are impossible, Karev said. This ship is generating more energy than our entire station. More than most battle fleets. And the hull? I cannot identify the materials. They are not in any database. Life signs? Karev paused. Yes, approximately 3,000 life forms aboard. But Commander, they are not any species I recognize. They do not match any biological profile in Imperial records. Thyrol stared at the ship. 3,000 years. The Empire had spent 3,000 years mapping every corner of known space. They had cataloged every species, conquered every civilization, absorbed every culture worth absorbing, and destroyed those that were not. There should be no unknown species. There should be no ship that could appear from nowhere. "Hail them," Thyral ordered. The communications officer sent the standard greeting. Identification request. Statement of Imperial authority. Demand for compliance. There was no response. Hail them again. Still nothing. The ship began to move. It was slow, almost lazy, drifting toward the station like a predator that knew its prey could not escape. Thyral watched it approach. He had seen many ships in his career. Warships designed to intimidate. Cargo haulers built for function. Luxury yachts meant to impress. This ship was none of those things. This ship was built for one purpose, and that purpose was destruction. Every line of its hull, every angle of its design, spoke of violence waiting to be unleashed. "Raise shields," Thyral ordered. "Arm all weapons, and send an emergency transmission to Imperial Command. Tell them we have encountered an unknown vessel with unknown technology, crewed by an unknown species. Request immediate fleet support." His officers obeyed. The station's defenses came online. Weapon batteries charged. Shields hummed with power. It was not much against a ship that size, but it was something. The strange vessel stopped. It was just outside weapons range, as if it knew exactly how far the station could reach. It sat there in the darkness, silent and waiting. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Thyral did not move from his position. He did not eat. He barely blinked. His eyes stayed fixed on that impossible ship. The response from Imperial Command arrived. Thyral read it 3 times, because he could not believe it the first 2. Imperial intelligence has no record of this species. Historical archives contain no reference to vessels matching this description. All known spacefaring civilizations in your sector were cataloged and brought under Imperial control between 800 and 2,000 years ago. This species should not exist. Additional information follows. Ancient records from conquered civilizations contain fragmentary references to a species from an uncharted region. These references are incomplete and possibly mythological. Relevant data has been corrupted or lost. Maintain observation. Do not engage unless attacked. Reinforcements are being dispatched. Estimated arrival: 47 hours. 40-7 hours. Thyral looked at the alien ship. A lot could happen in 47 hours, Commander. Korev's voice was barely above a whisper. They are transmitting. Thyral's heart began beating faster. Put it through. The message was short. Just one word, spoken in broken Vacheron. The pronunciation strange and imperfect, but understandable. Negotiate. The bridge erupted in confused murmurs. Thyral raised his hand for silence. His mind was racing. An unknown species with impossible technology wanted to negotiate. What did they want? What could they possibly want? Respond, Thyral said slowly. Tell them we are willing to discuss terms. Ask them to identify themselves. The communications officer sent the message. The reply came quickly. We are humans. From Earth, we have come to talk about the future. Humans. Earth. Thyral had never heard either word before. He looked at Korev, who was already searching the databases. The technician's 6 eyes went wide. Commander, I found something. In the oldest archives, from civilizations the Empire conquered over 2,000 years ago, there are warnings. Fragments of warnings, mostly corrupted. But the word human appears in several of them. What do the warnings say? Korev's voice dropped even lower. Do not wake them. Thyral felt that cold sensation again. Stronger this time. He looked back at the ship floating in the darkness. A ship that had appeared from nowhere. A ship that should not exist. A species that ancient civilizations had warned others about. Do not wake them. What else? Tyrell demanded. That is all that remains, Commander. Everything else has been erased or corrupted. It is as if someone deliberately destroyed the records. Tyrell stared at the human vessel. Whoever these beings were, they had been forgotten for millennia. They had watched the rise of the Vaxaran Empire, watched it conquer and enslave its way across the stars, and they had done nothing. They had stayed hidden in whatever corner of space they called home. Until now. Why now? What had changed? What did they want? The ship transmitted again. The same word as before, but somehow more insistent. Negotiate. Tyrell made a decision. It might have been the wrong decision. It might have been the last decision he ever made. But he could not simply sit here and wait for reinforcements while this impossible ship hung in the void. Open a channel, he said. Tell them I am willing to meet with their representative. One ship, unarmed, will approach the station. We will talk. The message was sent. The response came immediately. Agreed. Prepare for our arrival. Tyrell watched as a small craft detached from the massive vessel. It moved toward the station with the same slow, deliberate pace as its parent ship. He did not know what he would find when those beings came aboard. He did not know if he would survive the encounter. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Empire had spent 3,000 years believing it was the most powerful force in the galaxy, believing nothing could challenge its rule, believing it had conquered everything worth conquering. Looking at that ship, at those impossible power readings, at those ancient warnings, Tyrell understood that the Empire had been wrong. Something else had been out there all along, watching, waiting, and now, for reasons Tyrell could not begin to understand, they had finally decided to reveal themselves. The humans were coming, and nothing would. High Admiral Sorvith had served the Empire for 200 years. She had crushed rebellions on 17 worlds. She had burned cities that dared to resist. She had executed generals who failed and rewarded those who succeeded. In all her centuries of service, she had never known fear. She knew it now. The reports from Station Kethral 7 sat on her desk like poison. She had read them 4 times. Each time, she hoped she had missed something, misunderstood something, found some explanation that made sense. Each time, she was disappointed. An unknown species, an unknown ship, technology that defied everything the Empire understood about physics and engineering. And those ancient warnings, pulled from the deepest archives of conquered civilizations. Do not wake them. Sorvith stood at the window of her command center on Vasara Prime, the throne world of the Empire. Below her stretched the capital city, a monument to Vaxaran power. Towers of black stone rose toward the sky. Streets paved with metal from 100 conquered worlds gleamed in the light of the dying sun. Millions of Vaxarans lived here, served by millions more slaves from dozens of species. This was what 3,000 years of conquest looked like. This was the heart of an empire that had never known defeat. And now, somewhere on the edge of their territory, a single ship was making her question everything. Her intelligence officers worked frantically in the chambers below. They searched every database, every archive, every record the Empire had ever collected. They interrogated historians from conquered species. They analyzed the fragmentary warnings that had somehow survived the centuries. The picture they assembled was incomplete, but deeply troubling. Before the Empire's rise, when the Vaxarans were still a single-planet species fighting among themselves, other civilizations had ruled the stars. The Cathari Confederation, the Morvax Collective, the 1,000 Worlds of Yith. These were names from ancient history, powers that had risen and fallen before the first Vaxxaran ship ever left its homeworld. These ancient civilizations had left warnings. Warnings about a species from a small blue planet in an unremarkable system on the edge of the galaxy. A species that should have been primitive, harmless, insignificant. A species called humans. The warnings were vague. Most of the details had been lost or deliberately destroyed. But certain phrases appeared repeatedly across multiple sources. They do not forget. They do not forgive. They are patient beyond measure. Do not wake them. Sorvith did not understand what the warnings meant. The fragments painted a picture of a species that had chosen isolation, that had withdrawn from galactic affairs for reasons unknown. But why? And why had they returned now? A communication officer interrupted her thoughts. "Hi, Admiral. Commander Thyrol is transmitting his report from the meeting. Display it." The holographic image flickered to life. Thyrol looked exhausted. His scales had gone pale, and his eyes carried a haunted look that Sorvith had never seen in the old commander before. "Hi, Admiral," Thyrol began. "I have met with the human representatives. What I am about to report will be difficult to believe. I barely believe it myself. But I swear on my honor that every word is true." Sorvith leaned forward. "Continue." The humans arrived in a small shuttlecraft. There were 3 of them. Their captain is named Elena Vasquez. She appears to be their leader, though I am not certain of human command structures. The image shifted to show recordings from the meeting. Sorvith studied the humans carefully. They were strange creatures. Soft skin without scales or armor. No claws. No visible weapons built into their bodies. They walked on 2 legs like many species, but they seemed fragile, vulnerable, and yet there was something in their eyes. Something ancient and knowing. Something that made Sorvith's instincts scream danger. They were polite, Thyrol continued. Almost friendly. Captain Vasquez spoke our language well, though with an accent I could not place. She answered my questions freely, though I suspect she chose carefully which questions to answer. What did she say about their technology? How did they appear from nowhere? She called it fold drive. She said humans learned long ago that the best way to travel is not to move through space, but to make space move around you. I do not fully understand the concept, but the implication was clear. They can go anywhere, appear anywhere, without warning. Sorvith's blood ran cold. A species that could appear anywhere without detection. No defense could stop them. No fleet could catch them. They could strike at the heart of the Empire and vanish before any response was possible. What do they want? She asked. Tyrol's expression grew even more troubled. They want us to change. Captain Vasquez said humanity has been watching the Empire for a long time. They know what we have done. The conquests. The slavery. The destroyed civilizations. She said they gave us time to grow past our cruelty, but we never did. They want us to release our slaves? Abandon our conquests? Yes, all of them. She called it a simple request. Reform the Empire. Free the subjected species. Allow them to determine their own futures. If we do this, humanity will help us transition to a new way of existing. They will share their knowledge, their technology, their friendship. Sorvith almost laughed. Almost. And if we refuse? Thyrol was quiet for a long moment. She said if we refuse, humanity will remind the galaxy why the ancients warned others to let them sleep. She said they do not want war. They have seen too much war. But they will not stand by while billions suffer under our rule. 1 ship, Sorvith said. They threaten the Empire with 1 ship? High Admiral, that 1 ship shrugged off scans that should have revealed every secret of its construction. It appeared from folded space with no warning. Its power readings exceed anything we have ever encountered. And Captain Vasquez mentioned, almost casually, that the Indomitable is not their only vessel. She said it is simply the one they chose to send first. Sorvith sat back in her chair. Her mind was racing through scenarios, strategies, possibilities. One ship could be destroyed. One ship could be overwhelmed by numbers. But if the humans have more ships, if they could truly appear anywhere without warning, what is your assessment, Commander? Thyrol's answer came slowly, as if the words were being pulled from him against his will. My assessment is that we should listen. My assessment is that these beings are not making idle threats. My assessment is that whatever the Empire decides to do, we should not provoke them. Sorvith nodded slowly. Thank you, Commander. Maintain your position and continue monitoring. I will bring this to the Emperor. She ended the transmission and stood in silence for a long moment. Then she walked to the door and summoned her personal guard. Take me to the throne room. The Emperor must hear this immediately. The throne room of Vuxera Prime was the largest enclosed space in the Empire. Its ceilings stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed beneath it. Its walls were lined with the banners of conquered worlds, the preserved remains of defeated generals. The treasures of 1,000 civilizations dotted the center sat the Emperor. He was ancient even by Vassaran standards, his scales cracked and faded, his body supported by machines that kept his heart beating and his mind sharp. He had ruled for 800 years. He had seen the Empire grow from a regional power to a galactic force. He had ordered the deaths of billions and felt nothing but satisfaction. Sorvith knelt before him and delivered her report. She held nothing back. The unknown species, the impossible technology, the ancient warnings, the demands for reform. When she finished, the Emperor was silent for a long time. His eyes, still sharp despite his age, studied her with cold calculation. One ship, he finally said. They send one ship and demand we surrender everything our ancestors built. The ship demonstrated capabilities beyond anything we possess, Imperial Majesty. Commander Thyrol recommends caution. Thyrol is a border officer who has grown soft watching freighters pass through. Checkpoints. The Emperor's voice dripped with contempt. These humans have been hiding in the darkness for thousands of years. They reveal themselves now because they see our power and they fear us. This negotiation is an act of desperation. With respect, Imperial Majesty, the evidence suggests otherwise. Their technology is impressive. So was the technology of the Cathari Confederation. So was the technology of the Morvax Collective. We conquered them all. We will conquer these humans as well. Sorvith felt her heart sink. She had hoped, foolishly perhaps, that the Emperor would see wisdom in caution. But he was a creature of conquest, of domination. He had never met a problem he could not solve with overwhelming force. What are your orders, Imperial Majesty? Dispatch the Third Fleet to Station Kethril 7. 200 warships should be sufficient to destroy one vessel, no matter how advanced. Capture any survivors for study. I want to know everything about these humans. Their biology, their technology, their weaknesses, and if they have more ships? If this is a trap, the Emperor smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Then we will learn the truth of their strength. And when we know that truth, we will crush them as we have crushed everyone who dared to challenge us. Sorvith bowed her head. As you command, Imperial Majesty. She rose and walked from the throne room, her mind heavy with dark thoughts. She would follow her orders. She was a loyal servant of the Empire. But as she prepared to send 200 ships against a foe, she did not understand. She could not shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. Somewhere, Admiral, Krezith had won 40 campaigns in service to the Empire. He had burned worlds that resisted and broken fleets that opposed him. His name was spoken with fear across a dozen systems. When rebellions rose, the Empire sent Krezeth to end them. He had never failed. Now he stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance, watching 200 warships form into attack position around Station Kethril 7. This was the Third Fleet, the hammer of the Empire, the force that had crushed the last great rebellion 3 centuries ago. Any sane enemy would flee at the sight of them. The human ship did not flee, though it sat in the void exactly where Commander Thyrol's reports had placed it. Dark gray hull absorbing light. No movement. No defensive maneuvers. No attempt to escape. Krezeth studied the vessel with experienced eyes. It was large, yes, larger than any single ship in his fleet. But size meant nothing against numbers. His 200 ships could concentrate firepower that would crack a planet. One vessel, no matter how big, could not survive that kind of assault. Status report. He commanded. His tactical officer responded instantly. All ships in position, Admiral. Weapons fully charged. Shields at maximum. We await your order. The enemy ship? No change. No shields detected. No weapons powered. It is simply waiting. Krezeth frowned. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. A single ship facing an entire fleet should be running, fighting, doing something. This stillness was unnatural, but orders were orders. The Emperor had commanded destruction, and Krezeth would deliver it. Open a channel to the human vessel. The communications officer worked his controls. Channel open, Admiral. Krezeth spoke with the cold authority of a Vaxaran war leader. Human ship. This is Admiral Krezeth of the Imperial Third Fleet. You have been found guilty of threatening the Vaxaran Empire. You will power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with immediate destruction. You have 1 minute to comply. The response came almost immediately. A human female appeared on the display. She was smaller than Krezeth had expected, with dark hair and darker eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations. She did not look like a warrior. She looked like someone's mother. Admiral Krezeth, she said, and her voice was calm, almost gentle. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth space vessel Indomitable. I must decline your offer. This is not an offer. This is a command. I understand. But we did not come here to surrender. We came here to deliver a message. Your empire has committed terrible crimes against the species of this galaxy. Slavery, genocide, the destruction of entire civilizations. We are offering you a chance to make things right. Krezeth laughed. It was a harsh sound, filled with contempt. You offer us a chance? 1 ship against 200? You are either insane or foolish. Neither, Admiral. We are patient. We have been watching your empire for a very long time. We hoped you would change on your own. You did not. So now we must help you change. The only change you will experience is death. Final warning. Power down or be destroyed. Captain Vasquez sighed. It was a small, tired sound. Very well, Admiral. Do what you must. But remember this moment. Remember that we gave you the choice. The transmission ended. Krezeth stared at the blank screen for a moment. Then he turned to his tactical officer. All ships. Open fire. 200 warships fired simultaneously. Energy beams and plasma bolts and missile barrages converged on the human vessel from every direction. The firepower was immense. The light was blinding. Space itself seemed to burn around the Indomitable. Krezeth watched with satisfaction. Nothing could survive that kind of attack. No shields could hold. No armor could resist. The human ship would be vapor and debris. The light faded. The Indomitable was untouched, not damaged, not scratched, not marked in any way. The most devastating attack the Third Fleet could deliver had done absolutely nothing. Kresith felt his heart stop for a moment. That is impossible. Scan the ship. Tell me what happened. His officers scrambled to obey. The sensor readings came back, and they made no sense. Admiral, our weapons struck the hull. All of them. But the energy was absorbed, converted into something else. The ship appears to have fed on our attack. Fed on it. The human vessel had eaten their weapons' fire like a starving creature consuming food. Fire again, Kresith ordered. Continuous barrage. All weapons. The fleet obeyed. Beams of destruction poured into the human ship without pause. For 30 seconds, then a minute, then 2, the assault continued. The Indomitable sat motionless, drinking in the energy, growing stronger with every shot. Then it moved. The movement was sudden, impossibly fast for a ship that size. One moment, it was stationary. The next, it was among the fleet, sliding between warships like a predator through a school of fish. A single weapon fired from the Indomitable. Just one, a beam of white light that lasted less than a second. The Eternal Dominance, Kresith's flagship, ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris, no wreckage. The ship was simply there, and then it was not. Erased from existence as if it had never been. 1,000 Vaxxaran officers and crew. Gone in an instant. Panic swept through the fleet. Ships broke formation. Captains screamed contradictory orders. Some tried to flee. Some fired desperately at the human vessel. Some simply froze, their crews too shocked to respond. The Indomitable moved through them with terrible grace. It did not fire wildly. It did not destroy randomly. Each shot was precise, calculated, purposeful. Command ships lost their bridges. Weapons batteries exploded from overloads. Engine systems failed and left vessels drifting. The human ship was not trying to annihilate the fleet. It was trying to cripple it, disable it, remove its ability to fight without killing every being aboard. Some captains did not understand this mercy. They continued firing, pouring everything they had into the invulnerable hull. These ships were destroyed completely, erased like the flagship. But those who stopped fighting, those who powered down their weapons, were left alone. 17 minutes. That was how long it took for the most powerful fleet in Imperial history to be reduced to a field of burning wreckage and drifting hulks. 183 ships were disabled. Their crews alive but helpless. 17 ships were destroyed. Only those that refused to stop attacking. Commander Thyrol watched from Station Kethril 7, his face pale with horror. He had tried to warn them. He had recommended caution. But the Empire did not listen to border commanders. The Indomitable returned to its original position, as if nothing had happened. Its hull still unmarked. Its weapons still ready. It could have destroyed every ship. It could have killed every soldier. But it had chosen not to. That, somehow, was the most frightening thing of all. Captain Vasquez's face appeared on every functioning display across the battlefield. Her expression was sad. Her voice carried no triumph, only weariness. Admiral Kresith is dead. The Third Fleet is broken. We take no pleasure in this. Every life lost today was a waste. Every death was unnecessary. She paused, and when she spoke again, her words were clearly meant for someone far away. Emperor of the Vaxxaran Empire, this was your warning. You sent 200 ships against us. We could have destroyed them all. Instead, we showed restraint. We disabled rather than killed. We gave mercy where none was offered to us. But understand this clearly. Our patience is not endless. Our mercy is not weakness. You have built your empire on the suffering of others. That suffering ends now. Free the slaves. Dismantle the instruments of oppression. Allow the species you have conquered to determine their own futures. Do this, and humanity will help you become something better. We will share our knowledge, our technology, our friendship. Refuse, and what happened here today will seem like kindness compared to what comes next. You have one cycle to decide. One cycle to choose between reform and destruction. Choose wisely, Emperor. The galaxy is watching. The transmission ended in the throne room of Voxera Prime. The Emperor watched the recordings of the battle with growing rage. His fleet, his mighty Third Fleet, swept aside like insects. His admiral erased from existence. His power challenged by a species that should not exist. High Admiral Sorvith stood beside him, silent and waiting. She had warned against this attack. She had counseled caution. But she was too loyal to say, "I told you so." The Emperor's voice was a low growl. "How many ships do we have? How many across the entire Empire?" "Approximately 12,000 combat vessels, Imperial Majesty. If we recall every fleet from every sector, do it. Recall them all. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we possess. If one ship can defeat 200, then we will send 3,000. If that is not enough, we will send 10,000. Imperial Majesty, the evidence suggests. I do not care what the evidence suggests." The Emperor's rage echoed through the throne room. "I will not bow to these creatures. I will not surrender what my ancestors built. I will crush them, even if I have to burn half the galaxy to do it." Sorvith bowed her head. "As you command." She left to carry out her orders, her heart heavy with dread. The Emperor was preparing the greatest military campaign in. The message spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. On mining worlds where slaves dug precious metals from poisoned earth, whispers passed from worker to worker. On agricultural planets where entire populations served as forced labor, stories were shared in the brief moments between exhaustion and sleep. On factory moons and prison stations in conquered homeworlds, the tale grew with each telling. A ship had appeared from nowhere. A ship crewed by beings called humans. A ship that had broken the Emperor's fleet like toys. The humans were coming. The humans were going to free them. For 3,000 years, the conquered species had known nothing but servitude. Generations had been born, lived, and died under Imperial rule. Hope had become a dangerous thing, a weakness that the Vaxxerans punished harshly. Resistance movements existed, but they were small and scattered, hunted constantly by Imperial forces. Now those movements were growing. Messages flew through hidden networks. Rebel leaders who had never dared to act began making plans. The impossible had become possible, and everything was changing. Captain Elena Vasquez knew about these movements. The indomitable sensors could detect communications across vast distances, and humanity had been watching the Empire for centuries. They knew where the rebel cells were located. They knew who led them. They knew how desperately these people wanted freedom. Now, it was time to give them the tools to claim it. The Indomitable remained in position near Station Kethril 7, waiting for the Empire's response to her ultimatum. But while the ship sat motionless in normal space, Captain Vasquez was very busy. Small craft departed from the Indomitable through fold space, invisible to Imperial sensors. They carried weapons, supplies, communication equipment, and most importantly, hope. They visited rebel bases on a dozen worlds, delivering gifts that would turn scattered resistance into coordinated uprising. On each world, Vasquez herself appeared via holographic projection. She spoke to the rebel leaders, answered their questions, and shared the truth about humanity. "You want to know who we are?" she said to a gathering of Cathari rebels on their occupied homeworld. "You want to know why we are helping you? I will tell you." The Cathari were insectoid beings, their compound eyes fixed on her image with desperate intensity. Their species had been among the first conquered by the Empire. Their civilization destroyed so thoroughly that few even remembered what freedom felt like. Thousands of years ago, Vasquez continued, humanity was like the Vaxxerans. We were violent. We were cruel. We built weapons that could end all life. And we used those weapons against each other again and again. She paused, letting the words sink in. We nearly destroyed ourselves. Our world burned. Billions died. Everything we had built almost crumbled to dust. And in that darkness, we made a choice. We chose to change. We put away our weapons. We healed our world. We learned to live in peace with each other. And when we finally reached out to the stars, we discovered something terrible. We discovered that the galaxy was full of suffering, full of empires like the one we had nearly become, full of species crushed under the boots of conquerors. We could have conquered too. We have the power. You have seen what one of our ships can do. But we had learned our lesson. We knew that conquest only creates more suffering, more hatred, more war. So we hid ourselves. We watched. We waited. The Kithari leader, an ancient being with scarred carapace and missing limbs, spoke in a clicking voice. Why did you wait so long? Do you know how many of my people have died in your waiting? Vasquez nodded, and her eyes were filled with genuine grief. I know, and I am sorry. We hoped the Empire would change on its own. We hoped they would learn what we learned. Some species do. Some civilizations grow past their cruelty and become something better. The Vaxxerans did not change. They grew worse. And finally, we could not watch anymore. We could not let the suffering continue. So you are here to destroy the Empire? No, we are here to end the suffering. If the Empire reforms, if they free their slaves and dismantle their instruments of oppression, we will help them become something better. We do not want revenge. We do not want conquest. We want peace. And if they refuse? Vasquez was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was harder. Then we will remove them. Not destroy them. Remove them from power. The Vaxxeran people are not evil. They were taught cruelty by their leaders, just as we were once taught cruelty by ours. They can learn differently. But first, the leaders who refuse to change must be taken out of their way. She looked at the gathered rebels, at these beings who had suffered so much for so long. We are not here to save you. You will save yourselves. We are here to give you the chance. The weapons we have brought, the communications equipment, the supplies, these are gifts. Use them when the time is right. When the Empire's attention is focused on us, strike. Rise up. Claim your freedom. And humanity will stand beside you. Not in front of you. Not controlling you. Beside you. As equals, as friends, as allies. That is our promise. Across the Empire, similar conversations were happening. Vasquez spoke to the remnants of the Morvax collective, to the scattered survivors of the 1,000 worlds of Yith, to species whose names had been forgotten even by themselves. She told them the truth. She gave them hope. She armed them for rebellion. Meanwhile, on Vassara Prime, the Emperor was preparing for war-dodge ships arrived from every corner of Imperial space. 3,000 at first, then 5,000, then more. The greatest armada ever assembled in Vaxxeran history gathered in orbit around the throne world. Every captain, every admiral, every soldier was summoned. Every weapon was loaded. Every engine was tuned for battle. High Admiral Sorvith commanded this massive force. She stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Eternal Victory, watching the fleet take shape around her. It was an impressive sight, overwhelming. Surely nothing could stand against such power. And yet, she could not shake her fear. She had studied the battle at Kethril 7 obsessively. She had analyzed every moment, every maneuver, every weapon discharge. The conclusions were troubling. The human ship had never been in danger. Not for a single moment. Its shields, if it even had shields, had absorbed everything thrown at them without strain. Its single weapon had erased a flagship from existence with one shot. It had moved through the Third Fleet like a blade through water. And it had been holding back. Sorvith was certain of this. The precision of its attacks, the careful targeting of systems rather than crews, the restraint shown against vessels that stopped fighting, all of it pointed to a force that was limiting itself deliberately. The Indomitable could have destroyed the entire fleet in seconds. Instead, it had taken 17 minutes and left most of the crews alive. This was not the behavior of a desperate enemy. This was the behavior of a teacher correcting a student, a parent disciplining a child, someone with absolute power choosing to use only a fraction of it. If Sorvith commanded even a fraction of that power, she would have already conquered the galaxy. The humans could have done the same. They could have swept through Imperial space, crushing all resistance, claiming every world. Instead, they had sent one ship and asked nicely for reform. Why? What kind of species had that much power and chose not to use it? The answer, when it came to her, was terrifying in its implications. A species that had learned the cost of power. A species that had made terrible mistakes and survived them. A species that understood, in a way the Empire never had, that true strength was not measured in ships destroyed or worlds conquered. True strength was measured in the ability to choose mercy when destruction was easier. The Empire had never understood this. The Emperor certainly did not understand it. He saw the human restraint as weakness, as an opportunity to be exploited. He believed that enough ships, enough firepower, enough aggression would overwhelm any enemy. Sorvith knew better. She had commanded fleets for 2 centuries. She had studied warfare from every angle, and everything she knew told her that this battle was already lost. The humans were not hoping to survive the Empire's attack. They were counting on it. Every ship the Emperor sent was another piece of evidence of his refusal to change. Every weapon fired was another justification for whatever the humans planned to do next. But Sorvith was a soldier. She followed orders. She served the Empire, even when the Empire was wrong. She would lead this fleet to battle. She would fight with everything she had. And she would lose, because losing was the only possible outcome when facing an enemy that had already won. The only question was how many would die before the Emperor understood this. In her quarters that night, Sorvith did something she had never done before. She recorded a message. A private message, hidden in encrypted files that only her most trusted officers could access. "If you are watching this," she said to the recording, "then I am probably dead. And if I am dead, then the fleet has likely been destroyed. And if the fleet has been destroyed, then you must make a choice. You can fight to the last soldier. You can throw yourselves against the humans until nothing remains. That is what the Emperor would want. That is what our traditions demand. Or you can choose differently. You can lay down your weapons. You can accept the changes the humans are offering. You can become something other than what we have been." I do not know which choice is right. I only know that continuing as we are is no longer possible. The humans have shown us that whatever happens next, the Imperial Armada emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 3,000 warships spread across the void like a wall of steel and fire. Behind them came support vessels, troop transports, supply ships. The combined might of the Vaxaran Empire, gathered for one purpose: the destruction of the human threat. High Admiral Sorvith stood on her bridge, watching the formation take shape. Her hearts were heavy, but her face showed nothing. A Vaxaran commander did not display weakness. The Indomitable waited exactly where it had been before. One ship, still alone, still motionless, still broadcasting nothing. Sorvith opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All vessels, hold position. Do not fire unless ordered. Then she opened a private channel to the human ship. Captain Vasquez appeared on the display. She looked tired but calm. Hi, Admiral. I was wondering when you would arrive. Captain, I must give you a final opportunity to withdraw. The Emperor's patience is exhausted. If you remain, you will be destroyed. Vasquez smiled, and there was sadness in it. You do not believe that, Admiral. You have seen what this ship can do. You know what is coming? Sorvith was silent for a moment. I know my duty. As do I, Admiral. Before this begins, I want you to understand something. We do not hate your people. We do not hate you. What happens today is not revenge. It is necessity. Necessity? Your empire has caused unimaginable suffering. Billions enslaved. Civilizations destroyed. Species pushed to extinction. This cannot continue. It will not continue. Today, it ends. You speak as if this outcome is certain. It is. Vasquez leaned forward slightly. Admiral, I am going to tell you something now. Something that will either terrify you or give you hope, depending on how you choose to interpret it. We are not alone out here. We have never been alone. Sorvith felt that familiar cold sensation running down her spine. Explain. The Indomitable was sent to deliver a message. To give your Emperor a chance to change. We truly hoped that he would accept. That we could avoid what comes next. He did not accept. So now we stop asking. Vasquez touched the control on her command chair. You have been watching one ship for the past cycle. You have been preparing to fight one ship. You believed we were alone and outnumbered. We were not alone, Admiral. We were waiting. Space rippled, folded, tore. Ships materialized around the Indomitable. Not one or two. Not a dozen. 1,000 Earth vessels appeared from nowhere, each as massive and deadly as the first. They emerged from folded space in perfect formation, surrounding the Imperial fleet like a fist closing around an insect. Sorvith stared at the sensor readings. Her officers were screaming numbers that made no sense. 1,000 ships, each with power readings that exceeded anything Imperial technology could produce. Each appearing from a dimension the Empire did not even know existed. But that was not all. Across the galaxy, more signals emerged. Rebel fleets, hidden and armed by humanity, revealed themselves simultaneously. Slave populations rose up on 100 worlds. Orbital stations were seized. Imperial governors were captured. Communication centers were taken. The uprising had begun. And it was happening everywhere at once. In the throne room of Vassar Prime, the Emperor watched his empire crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from every sector. Rebellions, defections, systems going dark. His generals captured. His governors overthrown. Everything he had built, everything his ancestors had built, falling apart in a matter of hours. And above it all, that human fleet. 1,000 ships that should not exist, surrounding his greatest armada, waiting to destroy it. Fight them! The Emperor screamed at his displays. Kill them all! Burn every world that rebels! I command it. But there was no one left to obey. His admirals were surrounded. His armies were overwhelmed. His power was slipping away like water through cracked stone. High Admiral Sorvith watched the human fleet surround her ships. She understood now. Everything that had happened, the single ship, the ultimatum, the waiting had been calculated, planned. The humans had wanted the Emperor to refuse. They had wanted him to gather his forces in one place. Now, those forces were trapped. Captain Vasquez appeared on her display again. Admiral, I am offering you a choice. Power down your weapons. Surrender your ships. No one else needs to die today. And if we fight, you will lose. Completely. Totally. Your fleet will be dismantled and your crews will be captured. But it will be faster and less painful for everyone if you surrender now. Sorvith looked at her sensor readings. 1,000 human ships. 3,000 Vaxaran ships. The number should favor the Empire. But she remembered what one ship had done to the Third Fleet. She remembered 17 minutes and 200 vessels broken. If one ship could do that, what could 1,000 do? I need to speak with my captains. Take the time you need. But understand, Admiral Humanity does not enjoy violence. We have seen too much of it. Every moment you delay is another moment your people might die. We want this to end peacefully. Sorvith ended the transmission and opened a channel to her fleet. She did something unprecedented. Something no Vaxaran High Admiral had ever done. She asked for opinions. The responses came quickly. Some captains demanded they fight to the death. Some begged for surrender. Some were simply silent, too shocked to respond. But the majority said the same thing. We have lost. Let it end. Sorvith took a deep breath. She thought about her career, her service, her loyalty to the Empire. She thought about the Emperor, safe in his throne room, demanding that others die for his pride. Then she thought about her crew. 20,000 Vaxarans on this flagship alone. Millions more across the fleet. Good soldiers who deserve better than meaningless death. She made her decision. All vessels, this is High Admiral Sorvith. Power down weapons and shields. Prepare for boarding. We are surrendering. The Emperor's voice erupted over the command channel, screaming rage and threats. Sorvith listened for a moment, then turned off the transmission. She was done taking orders from a creature who would rather watch his people die than admit he had lost. The Imperial fleet powered down. The human ships moved in, calm and careful, accepting the surrender with efficiency rather than triumph. There was no celebration, no gloating, just the quiet business of ending a war. On Vaxra Prime, the Emperor raged alone in his throne room. His guards had fled. His servants had vanished. His power had evaporated like morning mist when the human soldiers appeared, materializing through folded space into the very heart of his palace. He tried to fight. He grabbed a ceremonial blade and charged at them, screaming curses. They disarmed him gently, carefully. They did not hurt him. They did not kill him. They simply took him away to face justice from those he had wronged in the days that followed. The galaxy transformed. The slave systems were dismantled. The conquered species were freed. The instruments of imperial oppression were destroyed. Everywhere, beings who had known nothing but servitude woke up to find themselves free. It was not easy. Freedom never is. There was chaos, confusion, conflict between species that had suffered together, but did not know how to live together. Old hatreds and new fears threatened to tear the galaxy apart, but the humans were there. Not ruling, not controlling, just helping. They provided technology to rebuild. They mediated disputes between former enemies. They shared knowledge accumulated over centuries of peaceful development. Captain Vasquez addressed the galaxy one final time. Her image appeared on every functioning display, in every system, on every world. The Empire is ended. The Emperor will stand trial for his crimes. The Vaxaran people, not their rulers, but their people, will have a chance to become something new. So will everyone else. Humanity is not staying. We do not seek power. We do not want to rule. We came here because we could not watch the suffering continue. Now that the suffering is ending, we will return to our home, to our quiet, to our peace. But remember this. We are still watching. We will always be watching. If another empire rises to enslave and destroy, we will return. If another tyrant threatens the freedom of others, we will appear. Choose peace. Choose cooperation. Choose to build rather than conquer. That is the only path that leads to lasting happiness. We learned this through terrible pain. We hope you can learn it more gently. Goodbye, and good luck. The human fleet folded away. 1,000 ships vanished from known space, returning to wherever they had hidden for all those centuries. The Indomitable was the last to leave, lingering for a moment as if to make sure the galaxy understood. Then it too was gone. Commander Thyral stood on Station Kethril 7, watching the empty space where the humans had been. He had started this. His first contact. His first report. He had watched everything unfold from the beginning. His scales had gone completely gray now. His eyes were tired. But there was something new in them. Something that had been absent for decades. Hope. The galaxy was different now. Broken and healing. Chaotic and free. It would take generations to sort out the mess the Empire had left behind. There would be struggles, setbacks, failures, but there would also be possibility. Futures that had been impossible before were now within reach. Species that had been slaves were now masters of their own destinies. The children being born today would grow up knowing something their parent